let's add in Mr. Peterson.
Hey community, I'm Steven Donnelly, Art Director for Kingdom Games, and I'm here with our Community Manager Chris Bashir, and today we have a special guest, Mr. Sam Peterson, who is an exceptional artist.
We're going to try and bring him into the call and get him on the phone.
Excellent.
He's also a really nice guy, so there's that.
I have a reflection on my screen. It's so bright and sunny. For those of you
Hello!
Hello, Sam. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. How about you guys?
Hey Sam, excellent. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you.
So, Sam, let me formally introduce you. This is Steven Donnelly. He's our art director here. He has worked on several IPs. I think the most interesting to you would be he has actually worked on D&D as well.
Oh, awesome.
Yes, back in the day. And I was taking a look at your work. I love some of your Pathfinder stuff. It's fantastic.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I did the iconic character sometime back for a little bit of fan art.
Oh, it's nice.
So, I just wanted to bring you guys together because I'm fascinated by people who work on art and how, and you both do concept, so I'm always fascinated to see how concept evolves and how it changes. Sam, so have you seen a lot of your stuff get changed into like games or statues, or where do you usually concept for?
You know, I haven't actually. A lot of the concepts and stuff I've done have been a lot of personal work. I've done some trading card games,
Awesome.
but most of my stuff has been, I guess, yeah, the vast majority of it's been personal work. But it's kind of something I'd like to see. You know, I've been getting more into the idea of doing things for a project or something where you can kind of see your concept go towards a finished product. I think would be really cool.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But as it is now, I haven't actually done a lot of work that's really been developed into something finished.
Steven, I know you've worked for everybody under the sun. Were there ever days when you would just, paint out of passion and then be like, I could see this going somewhere or not, or?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I have, I guess I would call it an ongoing list of personal projects that I pay attention to every now and then. And I have aspirations to go back and paint in oil and acrylic at some point. So we'll see. So let's take a look at some art.
Yes. So this week, Sam, just so you're aware, Steven is working on some concepts for an arena. And I believe this is in Egypt, right?
That is
Okay.
That is correct. Sam, can you see this?
I'm bringing up your stream now. It's Kingdom Games ATX, correct?
Right, that's us.
All right, let's bring that up. I'll take a look.
So while Sam is doing that, I'll walk you through where we've been, I would say, the last 3 programs. This is episode 4, isn't it?
Yep. I think this is the 4th episode we've done live streaming your work, Steven.
Thank you. So we started with just a loose concept of Egypt and put this together on the first show in its entirety.
Oh, okay, nice. I see it now. It loaded up.
Excellent. The second concept we started on the show and then I just finished in my free time over the next day or two. And this is a much more foreboding area in Egypt.
Oh.
Temple of Isis, stormy day, that sort of thing. As I'm doing this, I'm trying to think of ways of how to implement diversity and lighting and atmosphere in the environment. And even though it's Egypt, it is Egypt some 25 to 2,800 years ago. So I think there's a lot more play, or it affords me a lot more play and diversity and environment because that part of the world was much wetter then.
Mm-hmm.
And then last month we had a guest on and actually just worked through some ruins and kept this black and white, and I never came back to touch this, but I like its simplicity. And this week we're going to be doing some type of arena in Egypt. And so I just searched the internet, I found some interesting reference, and I actually started to build an arena in Maya, because that's my 3D package of choice, and I didn't get it finished, so I'm just going to go ahead and use this photograph and zoom in this particular area because I like the lines and the structure. It's essentially providing all the lines that a 3D model would. And I prefer using a 3D model for any type of architecture.
Are those previous concepts that you did, were those all done in Stream?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So I got some mileage painting live, and it really is just hit or miss. Sometimes not so good, sometimes you're pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely been my experience streaming. Sometimes it's does not go the way you planned at all, but other times I'm like, oh, that actually kind of turned out, and I didn't expect it to.
Yes. Sam, how long have you been doing art?
I've been drawing for about 7 years, give or take now, a little bit over 7 years.
Okay, and actually before I get started, I want to show the community your website. So if you go to sampetersonart.com, and by the way, I like the way your website is laid out. I have been thinking about redoing mine. Someone said it looked like it came from the 90s, so I think I might.
It does look like it came from the 90s. Sam's way better than yours. Sam's way better than yours.
Thank you. So, so Sam, I love this work, and the fact that you are not doing this professionally, you really should be. These are phenomenal skin tones. It's imaginative. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, I was kind of in the spot where I guess I was on the edge of kind of the professional level and, you know, still trying to build up my portfolio and everything. And then I found Twitch, and I've been kind of going more headfirst into that. But I worked briefly at Tryon Worlds, if you guys know that company. That was
right.
I believe they're in the Bay Area, but I worked at the branch in the studio in San Diego before they shut down.
Okay.
So I was there very briefly, and then after that, you know, I was kind of looking around, but I was just doing some freelance here and there and some personal work here and there after, so it's kind of on like that cusp of it.
Well, I think you need to jump in and just start soliciting art directors and looking at availability.
Yeah. And I mean, I do luckily live in LA, so there's no shortage of companies here.
Exactly.
How long have you been doing Twitch, Sam?
I actually just had my 1-year anniversary on Twitch on February 20th, and that was kind of when I first jumped on and I just tried it out just to see what it was. And I thought, you know, I knew about Twitch before, but I thought it would be cool if they let you stream art, and sometime later I had a friend who actually started, so I found out you could, so I had to give it a try. But I didn't really get consistent and more serious about my stream until maybe like May or June, I think it was, is when I had a part-time job, and that's kind of when it got like consistent, and so I was able to have a more consistent stream schedule to match that.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome, man. That's great that you've made partner, and obviously I think the one thing I do like about Twitch, especially with the creative stuff, is it definitely pushes cream to the top, and very impressive work.
It does,
yeah,
yes.
I might even say better than Steven's. I don't know, Steven.
I would not disagree. These are beautiful. I love it. I love the sketches. I love the gallery.
Yeah, my big focus right now is a lot of this. Most of the stuff on my website is pretty old and outdated. So I love doing like sketches. Like you'll see so many things on we have a community called the Art Posse, and I post on my sketchbook there, and I realized like 80 or 90% of my work is just unfinished sketches, like they're not quite portfolio pieces. So my current endeavor is to, update my portfolio, replace it with more recent stuff that I think is a little bit more representative of where I'm at now. But Yeah, all this stuff at the bottom of my website's pretty old, and I think it's time I replace it. So
Well,
kind of currently working on that.
it's beautiful, and I look forward to what you replace it with. And this is magnificent.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, the last piece I actually finished was that it's like around the top right corner. It's the Medusa one with the three characters. That's the last one I just finished. So now I'm trying to finish up another illustration. But I guess one thing, since I'm not targeting specifically freelance right now or specifically game companies, is it's like a mix of more fantasy illustration and more, kind of concept art stuff. I don't really have a strong direction on either.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something else I've been kind of considering, is getting stuff that's a little bit more idea driven for concept art.
If you find a product that you like, a game that you're passionate about, just do art based on that. That's a great place to start.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
I like these Pathfinder pieces. I actually thought these were published, and I'm confident that if they did see these pieces, they'd be very interested in publishing them and certainly giving you some work.
Yeah, that's
this
actually
is- And I know
that's why I
this
did
is-
it initially.
Yeah, these are gorgeous.
I remember reading, like, if you look at their site, they say they like to see artists do a take on their iconic characters. So I was like, oh yeah, that'd be fun. I think they have some really cool characters. I'd like to try my hand at one of them.
That's definitely the way to do it. And you have absolutely nailed those.
Oh, thank you.
And now, do we step away from the fantasy and go to the harsh reality of the arena, Steven?
Yes.
The harsh reality of Egypt 3,000 years ago?
So that harsh reality is imagined quite a bit. So
So is this your 3D model right here, or this is an image?
no, this is just a photograph that I found.
Okay.
And my thinking with that is that it has the box here, which I'm really liking, and it's got all the perspective lines, and my plan was to do that in 3D and then just paint on top of that, but I'll save that for next time. And so this time it's just a matter of, okay, and this is it's a bullfighting ring. A lot of protection to protect the people, and I'm thinking 3,000 years ago safety probably wasn't much of an issue.
Yeah, not likely. Sam, when you're doing more fantasy pieces, do you start with like humanoid models, or do you start with just what's in your head? How do you sketch it out?
Do you mean models as in like 3D models or?
I
reference?
meant for concept. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, when I start out, I mostly just kind of try to loosely gesture out some lines, and I try to, if I'm doing a character, I mean, I guess it depends. If it's more of like a promo-looking illustration, where it's more painted up and it's a little bit more for show, I'll kind of gesture it out, try to get a cool pose, and just doodle around with lines, find some interesting shapes and everything, and eventually decide on a design I like. But if it's something that's supposed to be really kind of quick concept just to get some designs across, I'll do a little bit more like simplified shapes and thumbnails.
Yeah, because Steven, the past few times has shown me like little examples how he takes a. Sometimes he does thumbnails. Sometimes he'll just take a big piece and paint over it, trace it, do all sorts of cool stuff. And you're like, you can kind of see where it came from, but it's a whole new piece. And it's just when I see your stuff, it's especially like what you have on your stream currently. It's like just the muscle patterns are so different that you can see how they were sort of human, but they're so like distinct, and it's really cool to see that difference.
Yeah, and that's kind of a like style aspect I'm driven towards. Is I really like, I like realistic things and all that, but I really like pushing proportions and making them a little bit, not quite. It doesn't look like it's something that you can just take a picture of, something that looks a little bit crazy. So I like going kind of nuts with the anatomy sometimes.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's really cool.
Yes, it is.
Now, Steven, can you do that kind of stuff with architecture? Could you take, like, I don't know, like, say, like, a pyramid, and then start playing with the shapes and start taking it to another world? Is it that simple, or is there more to it than that?
No, it's that simple. I'll give you an example. So I like working on 50% gray and just in black. I'll create a additional layer that's honestly, I should probably just be using the line tool. And what I'll do in the first part of the process is just get some perspective that I'm happy with. And let's put, actually that's a little off a bit, so I'm just going to adjust it. It's like, okay, that's feeling good. Got this going like this. And I'm just eyeballing this. Normally,
right.
I would actually create a grid to figure all this out. And it's actually really quick. And for those that are interested in drawing, what you can do is Control T to select what you've drawn, right click, grab perspective, so you can bring that like that, just copy it, Control U to bring up hue and saturation, quickly change the color, and then rotate that to whatever angle you like. Take your first one, and this one's a little tough because what I need is to make sure all those points line up correctly. So if I do something like this, and then I grab a third one, again it's Control U, adjust that color to a third color, and I can put that in there, and then very quickly I've got a 3-point perspective.
Oh, nice.
So it's like, okay, that goes like that, that goes like that, that goes like that, and let's say there's a door right there, and maybe a little reflecting pool inside the temple. That one's probably off a bit. But you get the idea. It's like, oh, okay, and then, you know, I'll draw one pillar or an element and then just scale it and place it based on what that perspective is.
Wow.
Oops. That was too much. There we go. All right. So, pyramid.
That's really cool.
Thanks. Yeah. It's,
and then you can just morph it in that way now to whatever you want.
Exactly.
And take it to a really surrealistic place.
Yes. So it's, oh, and you can. Control T, let me do Control T, and then right click and choose the warp option. Will break whatever you're working on into quadrants. And you can do all sorts of silly things with it. So we've got a causeway here, and at this point more like that. And this one's like that. There we go. Put like a temple door here in the pyramid. It's actually probably a really big door, so let's just call it a door frame.
Sam, do you work from monochrome too? Or is that just a Steven thing?
No, that's me too. I mean, I build it up in grayscale first, and then I tend to add color after that. So I'll build the grayscale up to, I don't know, maybe like 80% completion of what the values should be. And then I throw some color on via a color layer and maybe an adjustment layer, or sorry, overlay layer, and kind of go from there.
And when you choose your color palettes, how do you do that? Is it eyeballing? Is it all feeling? Or do you have like go-tos like browns or greens or anything? Or
I would say I have a lot of go-tos since I draw a lot of figures. A lot of the times, you know, it's some sort of skin tone range, so a lot of reds and oranges and browns and all that. But it really depends. I'm actually trying to get more efficient methods for figuring out colors and color palettes because I want to do more illustrations, and I usually have something in my head. Like I want warms here and cools here and that kind of thing. But color palettes, I just kind of freestyle it. I'll make a color layer and I'll splash some color on with a soft round brush and just kind of airbrush it in there really quickly and in a really messy way try to see what colors look good together. But a big focus, I guess, is on the warm versus cool. Like if the character has a lot of light hitting his chest, maybe he'll be really warm there and the shadows are going to be a really, you know, deep cool color, and try to think of it that way. But I'm still trying to get more efficient ways to, you know, do that and see what works best.
Do you create your own brushes like Steven, or is it whatever you need for the specific piece?
No, I'm actually I'm pretty basic when it comes to brushes. I just use the hard rounds.
Wow.
Steven, what is this blasphemy?
I know.
That's brilliant.
That's the usual response I get.
The fact that you can deliver such high quality art by just using the simple round brush is amazing. You're going to scare artists.
I've tried, like I have, if you guys know Shadi Safadi, I have his brush set and it's a textured one. Mm-hmm. And I think the thing for me is textured brushes always kind of almost intimidated me because there's so many. And you know, you can just Google something like digital brushes Tumblr and they have that Tumblr where they just have endless amounts of brushes you can download that just, you wouldn't even have time to try them all.
Yes.
So I've downloaded like free brush packs that are, I don't even know how many brushes come in them. It's, you know, it's like 100 or something, and there's no way I can try that many out. So I'm just like, I'm going to go run back to my hard round brush where I'm comfortable. And I like Shadi Safadi's brush set actually because he gives you about 12, and on his website he explains what they do and how he uses them. And they're all kind of multi-purpose brushes, which is what I always wanted. I just want something that can give some nice texture. But every time, I mean, I'll try it, and I think it's good if I'm being really painterly, just to get some implied detail in there with texture. But I feel like I don't know, with my paintings, I really try to control the form in a very specific way, and I feel like I lose a little bit of control when I use some really textured brushes. But everyone's, you know, is telling me I'm crazy, and I may be, but I like my hard round brush.
How do you spell that guy's name?
Let me make sure. It's Shaddy, and Safadi, I believe it's pronounced Safadi. It's Safadi. I can actually can link it in your chat if you'd like, but it's the second link that pops up on Google. If you just Google his name, it says downloads.
Yep.
And you'll see his brushes if you click that. He names them all after like Game of Thrones characters and stuff like that. Explains what they do. So they're pretty cool. I have one or two that I really use, and I mess around with them when I'm like, all right, well, this is a rock, and this rock is a little bit too, you know, smooth, so I'll do a quick pass of texture. And on that Medusa painting, I used one of his really rough ones to throw it down on the ground to get like a little bit of gravel look, but I use them super sparingly. Oh, and the cloud brush was very nice. I used that quite a bit.
That's excellent. I'm going to download these brushes after the show and take a look. He's got some nice looking things. I very much, so when I first started painting, I was very hard-edged and realistic, and over the last, I guess, 15 years, I've been shifting to looser and looser styles. And with the brushes, I love the fact that you can just make Photoshop look like paintings and keep it really loose. So the last few years I've been experimenting with that and just really enjoying it. All right, yeah, pyramid. So that's how it starts.
Now, when you do these ones on stream, do you have a different process, or do you take a different amount of time if you were like in studio just doing these as concepts for the game? There, is it like a different time frame? Do you spend longer on one than the other, or is it kind of the same process?
It's the same process, but with the show I try and expedite it as much as possible. Hence the, hey, you know, if you want to draw, find yourself a cool picture that you like, and then, and I think this is probably the best example. Let me see if I can find the original concept arena. DLC, I think that was Egypt 2. Oh yeah, there it is. So this was actually the image that I started with, and I just manipulated it. And you know, hindsight being 20/20, it would have been much easier to just lay down a couple of rectangles and then scale them perspectively to get it, but this was the inspiration for this piece. And
okay.
Yeah, and I literally started with that and then just cut it up into, actually I wonder if it's in here. I don't know how much I actually saved from the show. Okay, so that is literally the first pass where I took the photo, adjusted the temple, and just kind of captured the essence of those rocks, and then found a stormy cloud picture that I love with lots of Payne's gray and then these warm golds and hints of pinks and purples in there. Threw that on top of it, a little bit of color, some rock noise, and this rock noise is just a rock image. It's kind of pieced together and stamped to get a texture, create some noise, and that helps define, oh, it's a certain type of rock, and then go in there and start painting on it.
And when you're laying these out initially, do you just kind of use the perspective that's in the photos that you're using, or do you lay down your own perspective and like angle and camera and everything, and then just kind of cut them up and put them into that?
I use my own perspective. I think it's important, and I would say honestly it's absolutely critical that before you start painting you have an idea of what you're doing in mind, and that can be thumbnails. I've been doing this long enough that it's like, okay, I know where to start. You know, our first arena is going to be inspired by an actual arena. Get that nice curve that's going on and use that to create the composition, and then as I block that in, I will just fill in elements that I think are appropriate and make sense.
Okay.
And that's, yeah, it's simply, where am I? There we go. It's just a optimized way of what I would do normally. It's like, okay, what's the fastest way to get something that's viable, and we can take a look at and decide, hey, yeah, we're liking that direction, let's go with that, or that's not quite working, how about this? So over the years, it's really speed becomes more and more important for those initial ideas. It's like we want to get started with wherever we're going visually with this particular concept, and the quicker and the looser you can do that, it's wonderful. And then at a certain point, it's like, okay, now we actually need to create concepts that artists can look at and produce something from. And I think of those as production concepts.
So what's the mood of this piece, Steven? Is this going to be foreboding? Is this going to be cheery? Where are you going?
Well, we are a family-friendly game, so I don't know how foreboding we can go emotionally.
Let's go dark. Go Ridley Scott Gladiator with it.
That would be, he took his inspiration from Jerome's paintings.
Oh my.
Yes.
That would explain a lot.
Yeah. So it's the one that I used to advertise the show. The gladiator and standing on the guy. Everyone's giving him the thumbs down. So then, just based on the lighting here, I'm honestly just kind of faking it in, assuming that this wall would be casting a shadow here, and then this wall actually becomes lighter because it's catching the bounce light.
Sam, Steven always has his light source in the right. Where's your go-to for lighting?
Oh, okay. With characters, I've noticed I do a lot of top front lighting. Like it's not dramatically to the top, but it's kind of falling from above a little bit.
Like the chest?
Yeah, it's kind of hitting like the forehead and tops of the nose and the chest and all that. And it's not usually to the left or the right dramatically. I'm actually trying to mix that up. In the current illustration I'm working on, actually I have like a tab of it open here. It's supposed to be coming from the top left, like through the trees onto them. But yeah, usually it's kind of the center top is what I've noticed I do a lot of. And I was joking with my chat the other day and all the time because I always like end up throwing a rim light behind a character. It always seems to be that setup, but that's kind of my go-to.
It works.
Yeah. I'm trying out new lighting situations because you can get such cool mood, with different, if you do an underlighting or you do like direct sunlight versus, something that's like really rim lit. So I'm trying to expand my horizons there because lighting can do so much for the mood.
Yeah, Steven, I've seen you do some crazy stuff with like clouds and stuff, but you always go to the right. What is that? Why do you lean to the right with your lighting?
I'm left-handed.
Oh, is it that simple?
I don't think about it, but yeah, actually, I think maybe you're right.
We were doing some on the Art Posse. We had our previous study challenge that we did was master studies. So we'd like replicate old master paintings. And when researching that, I guess doing upper left lighting was super popular for certain periods of art. I'd never really heard that, but I thought that was pretty interesting. Like I think Rembrandt lighting, that's a really common way. It's always like the upper left when I saw this whole thing on so many paintings with that lighting. I never really realized that before, but I thought that was kind of interesting.
It is. It's I am a huge proponent of looking at the old masters to find techniques and process and ideas.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I love John Singer Sargent.
Oh yeah, me too.
I'm a Caravaggio fan.
Are you?
I like Rembrandt.
Yeah, definitely.
Caravaggio.
Oh yeah.
I was able to see a Caravaggio exhibit a couple of years back at I'm in the LA area, and they had it at I'm forgetting the name of the museum. It's like LA, it's an abbreviation, but they had an exhibit there with him. And that was pretty. It's always cool to see that stuff in person. Like you can see pictures online, but it never really does it justice.
No.
How large are his paintings? Are they like gigantic? Because they always seem like they're huge, but they can't be that big, right?
They seem to vary in size. I mean, I don't remember it like super vividly, but they were pretty large paintings. Most of the ones I saw were quite, a decent size.
The ones I've
yeah, I don't
seen
think.
definitely ran in that, 4 foot by 8 foot realm.
Oh man.
I mean, they were big.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like. Someone actually mentioned a painting to me the other day on stream, and now I'm wondering if I can remember what it is, because it was a really cool painting, but it was yeah, I have it here in my search history, it looks like. Battle of Grunwald by Jan, I don't know how to say the name, but it's JanMatejko. And it's, I don't know the size of the painting, but they said it was huge, and I saw like a picture on Google Images, and it's like, takes up like the whole wall with the, here, I'll actually bring it up on the screen.
2200 by 1300 pixels, and it's definitely downscale. It's like,
Yeah.
The thing is huge.
Yeah, I can, I'll link it in the chat here.
Awesome.
Just I'll link it in both chats to make it easy. There we go. But yeah, that's some of these paintings. Like, I can't imagine seeing that one in person. Just those huge paintings are so crazy to see.
It is awesome. I love looking at art.
Yeah, that's where I get a lot of inspiration from. Just seeing when you see something that's done so well by someone, and it's a lot of times it's specific, like Kim Jung-gi, whenever I look at his pencil drawings or his ink drawings, his line stuff, it's just crazy that someone can get that good at, like line work and everything, and then you'll see these giant paintings, and certain things people do so well that, I don't know, it's inspiring to see, like, oh, someone can do one thing really, really interestingly that you wouldn't otherwise think of. So
yes.
Do you ever get that feeling of like, how could I accomplish this? Like, is it ever scary when you see that stuff, or is it always inspiring?
Usually it's inspiring. Like, sometimes you'll see someone who, I don't know, I guess you think of them as like a peer, maybe someone who's like an aspiring artist, kind of on the same track as you, and they do something that just kills it, and you're like, oh my god, like, what am I doing? You get that despair for maybe an hour or so, and then that despair for me, it always wears down. I'm like, oh, well, I'm quitting art. I'm going to go travel the country or something. And then like an hour later, I'll be like super, super motivated. Like, it's crazy how he did that. And like, now I want to try something equally cool.
Right.
So it's a little bit of both.
I don't know if it's like healthy competition, but like seeing great stuff, I'm just, and if it's within the style that I'm pursuing, I'm much more likely to pay attention to it. If it's, however, outside the style, I'll just recognize it for what it is, a beautiful piece of art, and it's like, okay, great, but I want to go a different direction.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
Yeah, I get really motivated. It's just cool I feel like people pushing the bar always makes me want to, keep pushing it too, so.
Exactly.
Definitely cool to see.
Are there any skill sets you're like really like focusing on lately, or?
Yeah, I've always been, a big thing, and this is why I think it's cool to watch guys like you paint environments and, see people who do other stuff on Twitch. People have so many different kind of specialties. For me, it's always been characters, and illustrations are now what I want to do more of, because I have a lot of, character paintings, but I kind of want to get more into getting some characters that are a little bit more focused on concept. I was thinking about doing some like hypothetical, or I guess it could become real, but like I thought, why not maybe on stream, instead of drawing unrelated paintings, do something that's for, say, a comic. If I do some like painted stuff my style, but that way I can develop a cast of characters that kind of have a story behind them. They have a meaning to their look. I spend a little bit longer on the concepts behind them, like why do they look this way? How could they look? What's their personality like? And I've noticed when I do that, it informs my stuff a lot more. It's a lot more interesting to look at, because it's not just a random barbarian guy, which can be a lot of fun. It can be cool, but they have a little bit more personality and reason behind how they look, the way they do, and I think that people can kind of tell that, gives it a little bit more depth. But yeah, more kind of concept to my concepts, and I want to get more into larger illustrations with bigger scenes, more going on. The things that always wow me when I see from other artists are those big fantasy illustrations where it's like a huge battle or some scene where you don't just look at it and be like, oh, that's a cool painting of a Viking. But you look at it and you're like, oh man, this guy's like sneaking up on this guy, and it looks like they're in a world that's probably really war torn, or there's so much like implied story behind the image itself, and that's the stuff that gets me excited, and that's the stuff I've kind of been wanting to do more of.
Have you branched out that way yet, or are you still kind of sticking with specific characters, or?
I did that Medusa painting that I put on my website, and that was like the first illustration, like actual illustration I've done in a while, and I really had a ton of fun with it. And then I have this one up that I've been working on here, and this is it's like a band of adventurers. It's kind of like a D&D looking illustration. It's a group of adventurers that are supposed to kind of be treasure hunters. They're outside this ruins, and I have a lot of fun putting things in more context like that. This one's not finished yet, still needs colored, still needs to be worked up a lot. It's maybe like 50% there.
Oh wow.
But I'd like to get into even more stuff after that, like a really, I don't want to get it over my head, but like a really big, battle illustration. Those have always been cool to me, and I haven't really done one. So I've kind of been pushing towards illustration. I want to keep easing into that, but at the same time, I really kind of want to get my feet wet with environments and vehicles and stuff, kind of tackle weak points. Pretty much a never-ending list of stuff I want to practice.
Steven, what's the best advice to get started with environment stuff?
Go outside.
That's going to be a tough one for me. I don't know.
Are you familiar with a Dungeons and Dragons artist named Keith Parkinson? He passed away a few years ago. He was big back in the 80s and 90s.
The name off the bat, no. I would have to look up the art and see if I recognize it, but don't think so. Oh yeah, I've seen some of this art. I don't really recognize the name.
He's done a huge amount of book covers, and we were both guests at a convention, and we were chatting, and was asking him about, when you're creating things, you do such a wonderful job with the environments and the characters in place. It really feels like they're there. And he gave me a couple tips. He told me a story that he shared with another artist who asked him essentially the same thing. It's like, well, when I want to paint a rock, I go outside, I get a rock, and I set it next to my easel. And I laughed, and it's like, I don't understand why people ask these things. It's like, go look. If you want to do a tree, go look at a tree. And don't go look at a tree in your neighborhood that's been manicured. Go out to the woods or the hills and find a tree that no one's paid attention to for years. That's a real tree. Look for those kinds of things. And part of it's also, he very much enjoyed traveling and took a lot of pictures of different environments, but he really understood that when you're creating things, that they need to look like what they are. And so even though you look at his painting, and it's very much a painting, you can see that, yes, that tree is definitely a tree. There's no doubt. And same kind of thing, like if you'd ever see his paintings up close, it just looks like blobs of paint when you get in close. It actually looks really sloppy. It's kind of funny.
Befriend the trees, Steven. Befriend the trees.
Embrace.
I speak for the trees. Befriend the trees.
The tree.
We, me and my dad, and usually my brother and maybe a friend and some family friends, we always have like this annual backpacking trip we go on. And actually this year we're going to Machu Picchu, which I'm super excited about because I've never even really been out of the country very much. But we'll see like such cool landscapes because usually we go to the Sierra Nevadas. And we've been to like Yellowstone and stuff like that too, but there's always such cool landscapes, and I don't really do landscape painting, though I want to get more into it. But it's always, whenever I go, I have to take pictures just of like, there's been a few times where I just saw a really, really cool tree, and that tree alone I thought had a lot of personality. I remember this one by the lake that we stayed at, and it was just this, I was like, that tree would totally fit in some really dark fantasy painting because it was just this, it had a hole in the center of it, it was completely dead, it had these like it was just a crazy shape, and took a picture of that. And I'm like, sometime when I actually do a landscape, I'm gonna fit that tree in one of them. But I I think just going out, yeah, there's so much inspiration just out in the real world and nature and everything that you can draw from.
Yes, without a doubt.
But how do you make like these fantasy buildings then if they don't exist? Like how do you draw a really cool castle? Can't just go look at there are castles, but you need like a dark fantasy like Game of Thrones style castle or D&D castle. Like what? Where do you go, Steven? How do you find it?
I try and talk the client into sending me to Europe and the UK so I can do some research. That usually doesn't happen. So for things like castles, it really is just about the research. We don't have any castles locally in the U.S. Or, there's certainly some homes that might qualify, but yeah, for the most part, it's just doing a lot of research. And with that research, understanding how a castle works. It's got an inner bailey, an outer bailey, and then an outer wall, and a town within that. Watchtower if it's a harbor. Research. Actually, I guess that would sum everything up. It's like when you get started, when you're doing something, think about it. I mean, just like with this, I went and looked at gladiator arenas. Actually, I should talk about that. Let's see. Sure that's...
So you just watch Gladiator on repeat, right? That's how you...
So, I don't know what this is from, but I do like these pillars that they have in the middle with the fire on top, and then they've got the big box, and I'm like, hey, that actually looks pretty cool. It gives me some ideas. That's actually a Game of Thrones set from the back, and I grabbed that just because I thought it was so relevant. Movie magic at its best. This is another one someone did of arena. This is a little more ornate, but also very stylized. And I like the braziers that they have here. And then I also like these barred doors. It's like that could be something interesting. This is a shot from the TV show Spartacus. So I'm curious about what they did. And what I'm fascinated by is like the perspective of this doesn't look right. And it may be right, but over here by the main entrance into the arena, it feels odd. Oh, I think what it is, it's a 3-point perspective. So you've got lines coming this way and these over here down there. So it just feels a little weird. I don't know what this is. At first I thought it was actually little action figures or something, but these are guys on a set. You can actually see that this is just plywood covered with plaster or something. But I like the steps and the pillars. And then the little setup that they have here. Another arena. I'm sure this is... Actually, I'm not sure. Actually, this looks like a contemporary arena built on an ancient arena. And not knowing where it's from, they may use it for bullfights or concerts. This is something someone had done in the game, and I grabbed this because he had built it out of wood and has these spikes on the wall. Like, that's a cool idea. And then, of course, the classic shot from Gladiator. This is the arena from Gladiator, the first one, and this is in Morocco, the same location where they filmed Game of Thrones. This is from a movie, Pompeii. I vaguely remember parts of it, but it was so bad I just couldn't watch it. And it's actually kind of cool. This is the same thing, but the image has been squished a little too much. But they've got these canopies that they roll out to give people some shade. They've got banners hanging down. And all of them have some type of royal box where people of power and influence sit. And then the best images of any arena I've ever seen come from the game Rise, Son of Rome.
Oh yeah.
Yes, and
I'm a big fan.
yes, the floors move, what happens in the arena changes, and it is just drop dead gorgeous.
Yeah, there's a whole level that's they actually do the whole theatrical thing where, like, you know, they put the gladiators in these things where it's like retelling the battles that they've won, and they actually have them killing people. That's our I loved Rise. I was a huge fan.
That's cool. I haven't played it.
Oh my,
Actually,
yeah. I'll share my games with you.
I was gonna say, I think you recommended it to me.
Oh yeah, it's yeah. Nathan built your computer, right? So you'll be able to run it. It's really good.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of art from that game, but I haven't actually really seen gameplay.
It's kind of like
the concepts.
Kind of like a rhythm-based, like kind of Arkham Knight, kind of, or Arkham series, kind of like rhythm combat. Very bloody finishers, but real meaty, kind of slow hits. But it feels really good to play. It's real good, man.
Huh. Yeah, I'll have to look into that. I just remember seeing the character concept art, which I was really impressed by, but I don't know why I never looked into the game.
It was one of those timed exclusives for Xbox One, so they kind of shot themselves in the foot because it was such a fantastic game, but since it was a launch title with Xbox, it kind of got brushed aside, I think.
Oh, okay.
Then they re-released it a year later on Steam. It's like, yes.
Do you game, Sam?
I do, but not. I mean, these days, really not a lot at all. I feel like I just have so much art to do, and I'm like always so behind. I have a million things on the backlog to catch up on. So my gaming has really been very, very occasional, I guess I'll say at this point. Earlier 2015, I had gone a long time. I think I went like a good 7 months without touching a game, which for me is quite a bit. But yeah, nowadays if I have a little bit of free time, I'll hop on a game with some friends. I like co-op games a lot. That's kind of what I find the most time for. So I can just kind of use gaming time as a friend hangout time. And GTA, for example, I'm playing GTA because I'm a big fan of that series. Still haven't beaten the game, even though it came out quite some time ago. So I'm about as casual of a gamer, I guess, as you can get.
There's no worries. Well, you're in for a treat. It ends very well. Great ending. There's
good.
tons of content. You could play for years in that game.
And the thing is, like, you know, the Steam sales and everything, they come up and there's all these games you want, but it's like, I don't have time to play any of them, but they're so cheap. So I'll get, like, you know, I picked up Wolfenstein, the New Order. I heard that was good.
Yes,
my brother was highly recommending it. So I got that, and I played it for like a couple sessions, and in my head I'm like, I got to go back to all these games. I got like Far Cry 3, I still got to beat, and then I got Far Cry 4, which I haven't touched. So and then Witcher was on sale, and I had to resist buying The Witcher, the new one. And
that's like 20 years of your life right there.
yeah, exactly. And I was like, if I don't have time to beat GTA and like play these other games, Witcher is I may be getting in over my head there. So I love games. You know, I've grown up with games. I've always played them, but just priority-wise and time-wise, I don't get too much time anymore. But I like to when I can. You know, when I have a little bit of free time, I'll try to get a little bit of gaming in.
Are you doing a lot of commission work, or are you just doing it anything specific, or?
I'm trying to catch up on some stuff I've been doing. I'm not really taking on any more, but it's just a lot of work with. I have like one more commission I need to finish up, and then I have it's just a bunch of things, you know, with Twitch, with the art posse that we're running, and you know, I stream on the Adobe channel. There's just like all these things that kind of all at the end of last year all kind of compiled on top of each other, and it's basically just trying to handle all that. So right now commissions are kind of on hold for a bit till I can catch up with everything I got to do.
Well, it's good to be that successful, though. Like, you know, it's a good problem to have, right? Have too
Yeah,
much work.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Better to have too much work than too little.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I try to look at it. Can't complain.
Sam, you've given us about an hour of your time, and it's
wow.
It's been great talking to you. obviously sampetersonart.com and twitch.tv/sampetersonart. You have any kind of like final statement you want to make? I mean, I hope we can talk to you again in the future too, because you and Steven, nice little compliment here. Maybe get a piece. Maybe you guys should work on a piece together.
Yeah, I'm surprised the time went by that quick. It went by fast. I don't know. I don't really have any closing comments or anything, but it was really fun talking with you guys. Just kind of hanging out, chatting, drawing.
Yeah, it's amazing work you've seen. I'm looking at your stream and I'm watching you sketch this guy's abs, and I feel like I need to go to the gym. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem. Me too.
We are Kingdom Games, and our game is Five Guardians of David, available now on Steam, and it is a nice adventure action RPG Diablo style game. If you want to go back 3,000 years to the land of Canaan, lots of fun to be had there. In between your backlogging of other games.
Yeah. I'll add that to the list, the ever-growing list.
I will shoot you over a key.
Okay, sweet.
So I know you don't have time, but if you do, I mean, just go in it so you can critique Steven's art direction.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to check it out. I think it's so cool. Like, Quinn, my mod, actually, who's in the chat, he worked on a game I never got a chance to play. But I think just if you know someone who works on a game, or you've kind of talked to the artist who worked on it, just kind of putting that in context is really cool. So it would be definitely cool to check out and kind of see these concepts and how the art direction influenced the game.
That would be great. And Sam, you are welcome back anytime. I would love to do this again.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, your chat is actually making me laugh a lot. They've had some good ones there where they said, I think the line of the day goes to the guy who said, Steven said, well, you just go and find a tree that no one's touched or looked at for years. And someone said, so if I want to draw a person, do I just find a person that no one's touched or looked at for years? So that made me laugh a lot. That was good. That's line of the day right there. Sam, it's been absolutely fantastic talking to you, man. And please keep us updated on the stuff that you're drawing, because it's awesome to look at in the office, and it's great. This gets Steven on a kick about D&D in the olden days.
Yeah, definitely.
Draw some characters.
I'll have to update you guys when I finish that like D&D-esque illustration I'm working on.
Please do, man. I needed a desktop background to replace Steven's old stuff. So.
Wow! Ow!
Yeah,
hurts.
Shots fired.
I know. We're gonna have words tomorrow.
Yeah. Sam, again, it's been absolutely fantastic talking to you. Thanks for taking the time.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks again for having me on.
Thank you, Sam.
Have a great day, dude.
All right, you too. See you guys.
Yeah.
Bye.
Cool. So, Steven,
that was awesome, man.
Yeah.
He is
awesome.
a fantastic artist, and
Sorry, Steven, what Cintiq do you use?
I use a 24-inch HD Cintiq.
Okay. All right. There you go. 24-inch HD Cintiq, and it is spelled C-I-N-T-I-K. Or T-I-Q, sorry. Not C-E-N-T-I-C, because I cannot spell the brand.
No, it's C-I-N-T-I-Q.
Yes. Yes, I've been corrected. So, just so you know, Steven, you're about an hour into your arena.
Wonderful, and honestly, I'm barely started.
Yes.
So, I think we should stop here, and actually, next time I'll show how to start with the 3D one and what I did there, and I'll build something similar to this, and then we'll start painting from there.
Awesome. Again, everyone, thanks for watching. I think a lot of you are Sam's fans, and we love Sam. It was great talking to him, and we hope to see you guys again soon. The game is Five Guardians of David, out now on Steam. We are Kingdom Games, kingdomgames.com. We are working on continuing development of Five Guardians of David, which is a family-friendly action RPG set 3,000 years ago in the land of Canaan.
Yes.
We just released a massive patch with all sorts of crazy cool improvements.
It's not a patch. It is an update. It is a major update for the game across the board. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it is. It is amazing. We're always looking to see new gameplay footage, so if you guys want to capture gameplay footage, do it. If any of you are artists and you'd like to come on stream and talk to Steven for an hour, just shoot an email to marketing@kingdomgames.com or info@kingdomgames.com, and I'll get you all scheduled. And we love talking to anyone, large or small, beginning, professional, either or. We always love to chat with artists.
Very much so. Community, thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you the beginning of April.
1st of April. I'll be back next week with some designers, but next art stream will be first Thursday of April.
Awesome. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.